All right, we start with this. The special counsel who investigated President Biden's handling of classified documents is defending his findings on Capitol Hill today. Robert Hur is appearing before the Republican-led House Judiciary Committee to discuss his report published just last month. Now, he determined charges were not warranted. You might remember in that report, the special counsel also called the president, quote, a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
What I wrote is what I believe the evidence shows and what I expect jurors would perceive and believe. I did not sanitize my explanation, nor did I disparage the president unfairly. I explained to the Attorney General my decision and the reasons for it. That's what I was required to do.
Now, President Biden held this press conference hours after the report's release to defend his mental acuity, and he memorably told reporters, quote, I know what the hell I'm doing. Samantha Vinograd has been following all of this for us. She's a CBS News contributor and the former Assistant Secretary for Counterterrorism and Threat Prevention for the Department of Homeland Security. Sam, great to have you. The current president, former vice president, had choice words for me when I questioned if he had taken a cognitive test. It's a sensitive topic for him. But here we're actually seeing something that's a sensitive topic for Republicans. They're angry that Hur did not recommend charges. Democrats angry at the suggestion that he is a, quote, well-meaning elderly man with poor memory. Just give us a description from your impression from what we witnessed this morning and that's ongoing.
Well, let's acknowledge that there's someone who's very happy this morning, and that's Vladimir Putin, because he is getting an incredible amount of content from the Hur testimony to use in his foreign influence campaigns to paint a picture of a United States that's divided and of U.S. leadership that is not handling classified information in a way that protects national security. So today, Vladimir Putin is very happy. However, both Republicans and Democrats on Congress are quite angry at this moment. Republicans, on the one hand, are indicating that President Biden willfully mishandled classified information, which is not the conclusion that the special counsel reached. And Democrats are viewing the special counsel as a MAGA plant and as politically motivated and as inept to make judgments on the president's cognitive state. And I do believe we actually have some video from today's testimony on those fronts.
Page 231, you said this: President Biden had strong motivations. That's a key word. We're getting to motive now. President Biden had strong motivations to ignore the proper procedures for safeguarding the classified information in his notebooks.
We're not standing up for democracy and human rights and international law around the world. No, we're trying to play memory detectives to parse the language of a president who the whole world got to see at the State of the Union address directly address the real questions of our time. And it is democracy versus dictatorship.
That video just really underscores the fact that there's a lot of strong feelings on Capitol Hill. Now, I do think, Errol, that Republicans are happy to have the opportunity to point to the special counsel's analysis of the president's mental state and his perception that the president has a lack of memory, is feeble, is elderly, because that's a picture that they're trying to paint of the president on the campaign trail, of President Biden. And so I do think while Republicans are feigning anger on the Hill, this is actually viewed as a campaign opportunity for them heading into 2024. While Democratic lawmakers are infuriated by the special counsel's personal analysis of the president's mental state and his articulation of the president's actions and motivations on particular matters, including, for example, the Afghanistan memo that the special counsel ridiculously says the then vice president kept because he was writing a book. So there's a lot of anger on the Democrat side. I think on the Republican side, there's feigned anger, while they overall are pleased to receive some campaign content for 2024.
Well, watching the hearing this morning, it seems clear that there's a little bit of political theater on both sides of the aisle when it comes to this topic. But the central issue is an important one that most Americans will find valuable, and that is the retention of classified documents by a president when they leave office. No matter who it is, it can, in fact, pose national security risks. What are those exactly?
Well, think about if we had a 300-plus page document outlining how senior Kremlin officials mishandled classifying Russian information. That would provide us with really deep insights for how our own spy networks could try to access classified Russian information. We don't have that. What the world now has is a very lengthy public document and now hours of testimony about vulnerabilities as it pertains to highly classified information. We have that from Special Counsel Hur. We also have information from the Special Counsel report on President Trump, and that's an operational security risk for the United States unless President Biden urgently takes action to remedy those vulnerabilities, to revisit existing processes and protocols to make sure that those vulnerabilities are mitigated. And second, Errol, as I mentioned in my first response, this is a massive opportunity for foreign influence campaigns to gather content. This testimony is full of political divisions. It's a bit of a circus up there on Capitol Hill right now. We know that Russia wants to paint a picture of the United States as incredibly divided. And there's a lot of commentary by members of Congress on the Republican side, as well as the special counsel, about their perceptions of President Biden's memory and his motivations. And all of that content we should expect, Americans should expect, will be exploited and manipulated by our adversaries, namely Russia, to advance their interests, not American interests, to advance their interests against the United States, which are to divide us and to try to put a candidate into the Oval Office in 2025 that suits their interests.
Yeah, I think that's the takeaway, that outside interests will use whatever information available to their benefit. Sam Vinograd, thanks for joining us.